is CNN.
Rocket attacks between Israel and Shiite Muslims spark full-fledged fighting in southern Lebanon.
The shrinking of middle America, a surprising new census report on the number of so-called middle-class Americans. Welcome to News Hour in Washington. I'm Reid Collins.
And from CNN Center in Atlanta, I'm Bobbie Battista. Those stories in just a moment, but first topping the news this hour, there is some speculation that confidence in an economic turnaround may be fueling a rather bullish stock market today. Taking a look at the latest figures now from Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is up about 44 points. Volume is heavy at 135.5 million shares. We'll have the latest financial headlines for you at the bottom of the hour. Reid?
Well, this followed some new reports about the U.S. economy pointing up some strength and some weakness. The latest numbers show the trade deficit shrank to about $66 billion in all of last year. That's the first drop below $100 billion in 8 years, thanks to a record high in U.S. exports. Also today, the Labor Department reports new claims for jobless benefits were up by 18,000 to 452,000 in the first week of February.
A helping hand for the middle class is a popular theme in Campaign 92. And today, new Census Bureau figures suggest the middle class is in trouble. It is shrinking. The Census Bureau says a middle-class family of four now has an income ranging from just over $18,500 to just over $74,000 a year. Measuring the years from 1969 to 1989, the Census Bureau reports the number of middle-class Americans has fallen from about 71% to about 63% of the population.
Later today, a panel of government advisors is expected to wrap up some 3 days of hearings and then vote on whether silicone breast implants should remain on the market. CNN medical correspondent Jeff Levine has been following the hearings just outside Washington, and he joins us now live. Jeff?
Well, Reid, getting to this point so far has not been easy. Scientists have told the panel that the silicone implants have been linked to diseases of the immune system and that the devices have a high failure rate. Now, on the other hand, plastic surgeons have told the panel that the devices are extremely reliable and that diseases in these patients are primarily a coincidence. Now, somewhere between these two extremes, the panel must reach its conclusion. The Food and Drug Administration has given the panel a range of options, from a total ban on the silicone implants to making the controversial devices available through medical studies to providing implants for any woman who wants one. But the committee is free to pursue yet another course if it chooses.
In weighing the options, we'd like you to focus on the appropriate level of availability and the proper conditions to be imposed if the implants remain available.
The other big issue confronting the advisory panel is what kind of advice should be given to women who have silicone implants in place. For those who decide their implants should be removed, the options aren't clear.
Most women don't want to go back to their original surgeon because they feel tricked, they feel betrayed, and they have lost trust in that surgeon.
So far, the FDA is not recommending that the silicone implants be removed, but Dow Corning is now saying that it will consider paying $1,000 for women with their implants to have those implants removed if the woman has no insurance. That proposal will be fleshed out more in a couple of weeks, but Dow Corning is considering paying women $1,000 if they want implants removed. Reid?
All right, while this is being thrashed out, what's happening to this voluntary suspension of the silicone ones?
Well, the voluntary moratorium, while it's exactly that, voluntary, has had an almost overwhelming effect on the implanting of these devices throughout the United States. The plastic surgery community is saying that it will not implant devices while the moratorium is in effect, and therefore these devices simply are not being used. It would not be considered good medical practice at this time to implant the devices, and I think we might add that no matter what is recommended here today, it's just a recommendation to the FDA. The FDA says that the moratorium will stay in place for at least another 60 days, Reid.
All right, thank you, Jeff Levine, live in Bethesda, Maryland. The Food and Drug Administration has established a toll-free hotline to get information about implants. Number is 1-800-532-4440. And CNN will air a special tonight, Implants, New Image, New Worries. That's at 10:30 p.m. Eastern.
In the words of one Western journalist, it's like hell. Israeli forces and Shiite Muslim guerrillas are engaged in bloody clashes in southern Lebanon. Israeli tanks rumbled out of Israel's self-declared security zone today and smashed through UN barricades deep into southern Lebanon. Witnesses say the Israeli forces control the town of Rashaf. Hand-to-hand fighting is reported in Yatar, and residents began fleeing the town of Kafra after hearing reports the Israeli forces were headed their way. The number of casualties is still unclear, but there are reports at least 10 people have been killed and more than 30 wounded in the fighting, including 4 UN peacekeepers. The fighting follows an exchange of rocket fire between Israel and Shiite Muslims in southern Lebanon. The violence escalated after an Israeli airstrike that killed the leader of the Shiite group, Hezbollah. Israel insists the operation is not the start of an invasion, but Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir says his country will do everything it can to stop guerrilla activity in southern Lebanon.
Israel will not tolerate. We will give our response. We will do everything to remove this violence from this area.
The U.S. State Department is urging Israel and Lebanon to exercise maximum restraint. President Bush shrugged off reporters' questions today about why he has not condemned the incursion.
And next on NewsHour, some powerful drugs in early pregnancy. Did these have some role in creating a serial killer? The father of Jeffrey Dahmer reflects on that. An allegation that Mike Tyson's rape trial might have been rigged. We'll tell you about that. Drawing up some new congressional districts, interstate highways are playing a new role in politics, and we'll explain. And the Russian rappers are making the most of the musical trend made in America.
Freedom's the one. Only one gum passes the test when you've got dental work, and that's Freedent. Freedent won't stick to your dental work, so you can be confident chewing it. And because it also moistens your mouth and freshens your breath, Freedent's in a class by itself.
Freedent's the one that took the stick out of gum, and Freedent moistens your mouth. Yeah, moistens your mouth and freshens your breath while you chew.
Non-stick Freedent moistens your mouth and freshens your breath.
In the early 90s, the real estate business changed.
I've got your financing seminar, 2 closings, and a showing.
Busy day.
Busy morning.
Professionals took control, trained to use the latest marketing tools, responsive to the real human issues.
He's not moving, but we've got a meeting set for tomorrow.
One organization set the pace.
I love this business.
Better Homes and Gardens. Real estate.
I like a really big, round burger.
And I like them really, really thick.
You're gonna have a baseball.
Smells come up and the juices drip down. I can almost hear it.
By the sound, just by the sound, then I know it's ready.
Whoa.
Wait.
It's not done.
Done.
It's done.
No, it's done.
A1. It's how burgers are.
Perfect.
Done.
What does the future hold for you?
People in their 30s and 40s are becoming very concerned about what's out there for them when they turn 65.
Now there is a news program that answers your concerns.
We're getting into the areas of national health insurance and folks' sense of security and how that might be affected by a changing economy.
The issues that we address are of immediate concern perhaps to much of the audience and of future concern to everybody.
Early Prime with Cheryl Atkinson and Lou Waters today at 4 on CNN.
The father of the convicted serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer is offering an explanation for his son's murderous actions. Lionel Dahmer has told a television interviewer his ex-wife had taken powerful sedatives and hormones while she was pregnant with Jeffrey, and he says that may have caused his son's mental problems. Dahmer, you know, was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms by a Wisconsin judge on Monday for the mutilation murders of 15 young men and boys.
In Indianapolis, there is a new twist in the Mike Tyson rape case. It was only 10 days ago that Tyson was convicted of rape. Now, an Indianapolis attorney says he heard a juror say the trial was fixed, with the outcome beyond the jury's control. The prosecutor's office says it will investigate the claim, but other jurors say they don't believe it. And one reportedly said the juror in question had denied making the comment. In another development, the head of the nation's largest black church group denies he tried to pressure Tyson's accuser into dropping her charges. An Indianapolis TV station reports the FBI is investigating the allegation. The Reverend T.J. Jemison heads the National Baptist Convention USA, and he admits he talked to Desiree Washington, but he says he only asked her why she was going through with the trial and never offered her money or tried to get her to change her story in any way. Church leaders are calling for leniency when Tyson is sentenced next month.
We wish to help a young man that we feel really needs help. He needs friends. He comes from the street, and he worked with his fist and got plenty of money. And of course, he has to have somebody who cares for him and show him the way.
Jemison says federal agents have not contacted him.
A manhunt's underway in West Virginia now, where 3 convicted murderers tunneled their way out of the state penitentiary. So far, search teams scouring the rugged hills around Moundsville have come up empty-handed. Police were called in last night after a passerby outside noticed a hole near the rear wall of the facility. Officials say the 3 inmates dug through the dirt floor of the prison greenhouse and tunneled more than 32 feet out toward the street. 2 of those 3 inmates worked in the greenhouse and thus had access to the digging tools. Back in 1812, Jerry Elbridge, then the governor of Massachusetts, carved out an election district shaped something like a salamander. Since it worked to his political advantage, this process came to be known as gerrymandering. Well, today, some strange-shaped congressional districts are cropping up across the country. Latest one in North Carolina. And CNN's Pat Etheridge reports.
Around here, they call it the 4-lane district. Instead of a traditional voting block, one of the nation's newest congressional districts runs from Durham, North Carolina, halfway across the state to Charlotte, hugging Interstate 85.
It looks kind of like a snake.
The squiggly line was created because North Carolina hasn't elected a black to Congress this century. The Justice Department ordered the state to create black majority districts that might turn the tide. So computer experts went to work, and District 12 was born.
It's a collection of black communities in the mid-sized cities that make up the heart of North Carolina.
Meandering some 200 miles alongside hojos, Waffle Houses, and way stations, it's anything but compact. More than 500,000 people live along District 12, so campaigning could take on a sprawling new style.
You can have a rally off of every exit off of Interstate 85 and touch all the people.
Truck stops, some suggest, might serve as polling places.
We will have voting stations where you just drive up and vote like a Hardee's or McDonald's, I'm sure.
Cartoonists are having a heyday with a district line thin enough to spit across. Just to drive the point home, part of the path is so narrow that the northbound lane of the interstate is in the new District 12, while the southbound lane lies in another. The state GOP leader believes it has less to do with electing minorities than keeping Republicans out of office. He charges old-fashioned gerrymandering and is fighting back with a lawsuit.
Well, I frankly think it just destroys the very fabric of our representative form of government. You'll no longer have a system where people know who their congressman is, who's representing them, nor do the congressmen really know what their district is when they have such a spread-out district.
Even civil rights foot soldier Congressman John Lewis believes this application of the Voting Rights Act may have gone too far.
My greatest fear is that we will create pockets of townships, not pockets of political power, but we will create something very similar to townships in South Africa.
Contorted as it may seem, District 12 is not unique. The state of Florida has another interstate district on the drawing board. There's a Hispanic district in Illinois shaped like earmuffs, and one in Texas that resembles a snowflake.
I think when we get through with this whole thing, we're going to see a bunch of them. We can probably have a nice exhibit at some museum, see which one was really the most creative.
For now, it remains a controversial computer age conception. It reaches out to voters in an aim to right past wrongs, and in some cases, redraws political lines right down a divided highway. Pat Etheridge, CNN, along Interstate 85, North Carolina.
Well, President Bush is in Washington today. News in itself, given the amount of travel time he plans to devote to campaigning. This hour, he is hosting the Swedish Prime Minister, Carl Bildt. But later this afternoon, it's back to politics. Mr. Bush attends a GOP reception. His conservative challenger, Patrick Buchanan, got a hero's welcome from supporters in the Washington area last night. Mr. Bush says he is going to go after Buchanan, but the White House has ruled out a debate between the two candidates. Revised returns from New Hampshire indicate Mr. Bush won by 16 points, not 18, as first reported. The top two Democrats from the New Hampshire primary are headed in different directions as the presidential campaign picks up tempo. Former Senator Paul Tsongas of Massachusetts visited Maryland before heading west to South Dakota, two states where primaries will be held in the next 2 weeks. Tsongas suggests it's become a two-way race between himself and Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton, with the two going head-to-head on economics. But in Atlanta yesterday, Clinton acted like a front-runner. He was ignoring Tsongas and aiming his attack at Bush. Also, Clinton's respectable second-place showing in New Hampshire appeared to chill efforts by congressional Democrats to launch another candidate into the race. Georgia's primary is a must-win for Clinton, whose base of power is the South. His organizational might there will test the resources of his rivals.
Well, New Hampshire behind them, as we've seen, these candidates are facing a hectic schedule of primaries and caucuses. Maine's next, followed by South Dakota on Tuesday. Then the following week, the polls will be open in Colorado, Georgia, Maryland, and Utah, followed by South Carolina March 7th. A few days later, the big one, Super Tuesday, the candidates wooing voters of 10 states. For the Democrats here, more than 800 delegates to the National Convention are at stake on that single day.
Asthma inhalers give patients a life-saving breath of air, but doctors say overuse could lead to death. That story coming up on NewsHour. Plus, a shot of self-confidence. The human body may hold the answer to eliminating annoying facial wrinkles.
Watch it here and understand it here. Watch it here and understand it here.